This is CBC Vancouver News.
Thousands of voters were met with extremely long lineups as they cast their ballots in Vancouver's municipal by-election. Why the city says it wasn't prepared for the larger than expected turnout, and who will fill the 2 vacant seats on city council. Also,
we're at the beginning of a process. I think we felt confident enough to say this looks like a very good process.
the Whitecaps say talks about building a soccer stadium in Vancouver are underway. Will the move help keep the Major League Soccer team in the city? Plus,
to find a dog in that state was heartbreaking.
an injured toy poodle is recovering after being dumped in a garbage bin at a popular Vancouver park, sending shockwaves through the city's close-knit canine community. Hello, I'm Janella Hamilton. Thanks for joining us. Thousands of people turned out to vote in Vancouver's by-election today. The city says the results will be delayed until all remaining voters across 25 polling stations cast their ballots. Our Chad Pawson joins us live from East Vancouver Brewing, where supporters of one city candidate, Lucy Maloney, are gathering, eagerly awaiting the results. Chad, when can we expect those results?
Janella, here we are in another election in British Columbia where we have no results hours after the polls closed. Extremely long lines. People in line at 8 o'clock tonight still had a chance to vote when polls closed. So we don't know when that is going to conclude and when we're going to get some results. So everyone waiting. I'm here at East Van Brewing, the campaign party headquarters of Lucy Maloney, one of the progressive candidates that ran in this election. The mood here is ebullient. Her supporters saying she ran a strong campaign, and there's great hope that 2 progressive candidates, Lucy Maloney perhaps being one, is going to get on council to try and temper the party with the majority on council. That's ABC Vancouver under Mayor Ken Sim. They ran 2 candidates as well. We were at their campaign headquarters earlier tonight. The mood there was somber. Not a lot of energy, as you're seeing here in East Vancouver. So everyone waiting around for results. Extremely hard for incumbents to win by-elections. By-elections in general have very low voter turnout. We're seeing perhaps that may be the opposite here, and we're seeing a lot of energy at the East Van Brewing Company for Lucy Maloney, but not sure when we're going to get results. Sometime tonight, hopefully. The city's saying that they will release them all at once those final lines are cleared in places like Kitsilano, for example, having long lines. So in a waiting mood, but really positive environment here at East Van Brewing for One City's Lucy Maloney.
Something to keep our eyes on. Thank you, Chad. The reasons votes are still being counted, extremely long lines throughout the day at polling stations. Our municipal affairs reporter Justin McElroy joins us in studio with more. Justin, what led to those lengthy lines?
Those long lines started early in the morning at Britannia, at Trout Lake, at Kitsilano, and so many places across Vancouver for this by-election. And they never let up. 1, 2, sometimes we heard about 3-hour lineups throughout the middle of the day. It became the top story no matter where you were. People wondering, how could this be? Typically, by-election turnout is around 10, maybe 15% at most. You don't see lines like this. This time you did. When we put forward the question to the city earlier this afternoon, they essentially said the reason for the long delays was simply lots of people being out to vote, saying the elections office is heartened to see the community commitment to participating in this democratic process, especially when by-elections have historically had low voter turnout, saying they didn't expect and modeled this many people. And in fact, that bears out when you take a look at how they budgeted for this election. And this is the real question. So in 2017, there were 50 different polling stations the last time Vancouver had a by-election. You can see them all around the city. This time around, let's swipe the map. There was just half that, only 25. So large parts of the city where there were none, so doubling up where people had to go. At the same time, the city of Vancouver cut by-election staff by 62% compared to 2017. So way less people around to help manage it. If you're an optimist, you say that tens of thousands of people came out and waited in line for many hours to exercise their democratic right. If you're a pessimist, you might say that the city of Vancouver had a situation on their hands today that they just weren't prepared for. Janella?
Thanks, Justin. We'll have all the latest on the municipal by-election results on our website at cbc.bc.ca. Meanwhile, outside City Hall, nearly 100 Vancouver residents rallied today opposing the Park Board's decision to approve a plan that will replace the Vancouver Aquatic Centre's 50-metre pool with one half as long.
We voted for a 50-metre pool. They asked for a vote. We pay our tax money. That is what we voted for, and now they decide, the Parks Board decided to make it a 25-metre pool. So it's really becoming awareness for the whole city as well as for City Council of what the people want and what the people need.
The group believes the move will significantly reduce access to swimming facilities. They fear it will have a ripple effect on other pools in the city as clubs and swimmers are displaced from the Vancouver Aquatic Centre. The protesters say the Park Board's decision felt rushed and more community consultation is needed. The city says reducing the pool size is part of a redevelopment plan. The Vancouver Whitecaps could one day have a new place to call home. The owners of the soccer club say they are in discussions with the City of Vancouver about the possibility of building a stadium at the PNE Fairgrounds. Sohrab Sandhu has more on what that could mean for the sport in the city and the team.
We have a huge soccer culture in Greater Vancouver.
Sports commentator Gurpreet Sian says the Whitecaps Football Club is one of the only MLS teams without their own stadium.
So out of the 29 teams, they ranked 28th in terms of their value because they're one of the few teams that doesn't operate their own facility, their own stadiums.
But that could change. The club says they are in talks with the City of Vancouver to possibly build a new stadium on PNE Fairgrounds. The proposed location has yet to be announced. Sian says the area has a lot of history for the team that once played at Empire Stadium next to the PNE.
The original Empire Stadium was right here behind me in this area where we have the turf fields now.
On Saturday, the Whitecaps CEO was tight-lipped about potential plans, speaking to media before the team's match at BC Place.
We're at the beginning of a process. I think we felt confident enough to say this looks like a very good process.
In December, the owners of the club announced they were preparing to sell the team. Schuster says the owners have not changed their mind.
They are also very, very interested that we find a very good solution for this club. For the future of this club in Vancouver.
Having their own stadium here in Vancouver could keep the team local. Currently, the Whitecaps lease BC Place and practice at a training facility at UBC. Their lease at Downtown Stadium is up for renewal.
The cynical side of me would have said that this is partially posturing, given that the BC Place lease expires at the end of this season, 2025. The football romantic side of me says bring it on, because the club has always wanted to have its own facility, and it is a game changer when you do.
Shad says having their own venue makes a lot of business sense for the team.
You get to control all of your own bookings. You get to control when your games are. It's huge. But the Whitecaps also, I think, have always wanted to have their own stadium to create that true, we call it European soccer feel, where it's a little bit more intimate, like Empire was.
Sian says the idea is intriguing, but it would need input from the community.
Is this something the community wants? That's got to be a big question.
The club says it looks forward to continuing its engagement with the city. Sohrab Sandhu, CBC News, Vancouver.
The federal campaign trail is heating up as candidates make their pitches to Canadians. Government regulation and bureaucracy were Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre's policy targets today. He was back in BC, this time in the Okanagan. Marina von Stackelberg reports.
It is great to be back in the Okanagan. I think it's my favorite place in the world, actually.
We are in the interior of British Columbia, close to the U.S. border. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is the first federal leader to come to this part of the country during this election. And it's because he's trying to win seats here. Unlike Vancouver Island or the Lower Mainland, this part of BC is mostly Conservative territory. This riding of Similkameen, South Okanagan, West Kootenay is NDP. It's been held by the New Democrats for a decade, but their incumbent isn't running again. And the Conservative candidate who placed second the last 2 times is. Now, this area is known for its agriculture and tourism industries, and it's growing. Now, Poilievre was at a concrete facility for his announcement. He says the federal government bureaucracy is holding up building projects. He promises to cut 25% of all red tape over the next 2 years. For every new regulation or rule created, he says 2 would have to be eliminated. And for every $1 added in administration, $2 will have to be saved somewhere else. He says he'd also require Canada's Auditor General to enforce those rules.
This will force the senior bureaucracy to constantly comb through the rules, get rid of unnecessary and useless regulations, and find the most efficient way to protect public safety and the environment.
Liberal leader Mark Carney has come out with new measures promising more money for apprenticeships and to make it easier for workers to move between provinces. Now, Poilievre has already pledged similar changes, and he's accusing Carney of plagiarizing his ideas. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Osoyoos, British Columbia.
Liberal leader Mark Carney has unveiled a package of campaign promises targeting skilled trades. They include apprenticeship grants, money for union training initiatives, and funding for new college program spaces. Carney says it was part of his strategy of investment and development to counteract economic damage from U.S. tariffs.
We are blessed in Canada with the best workers in the world. We just need a lot more of them in the trades. Our ambitious plans for Canada require us to be ambitious in supporting the women and men who will build Canada.
Healthcare and doctor shortages specifically were the focus of Jagmeet Singh's campaign today. The policy planks included 1,000 new doctor residency positions and training aimed at providing rural areas with doctors from the same community. And Singh says only the New Democrats could be trusted to address healthcare problems seriously.
We are the only ones who are going to fight back to defend our healthcare system. We're the only ones that have a proven record, not just of bringing healthcare in, but we used our power to expand it with dental care and pharmacare. We can deliver and we will deliver for Canadians.
BC Housing has cut funding for an outreach program that has been helping hundreds of seniors at risk in Metro Vancouver and on Vancouver Island. As Leanne Yu reports, it has those who rely on its services worried.
Like I said, I don't know what I'd do without them, really.
Tino Van Dyke lost his vision completely in 2020 and was diagnosed with cancer soon after. He lives at Holway House, where he receives help with daily appointments, transportation, groceries, just about anything he can no longer do himself.
If I had become blind maybe earlier, maybe 20 years ago, I might have been more tuned to it. But at my age, I need someone to go out with me.
Now he's afraid and at risk of losing those vital services. Van Dyke is one of 400 seniors in Metro Vancouver and Victoria who depend on Holway House's Seniors Enhanced Independent Living program, a pilot program that for the past 3 years has received surplus funding from BC Housing. That funding no longer available.
So currently we're operating off of savings, which we can't, and it's not sustainable.
In a statement, BC Housing says the organization received one-time funding and was notified in March the program would not be renewed, adding it's working on finding alternatives to keep support for seniors going. BC Seniors Advocate says BC Housing typically funds structures, not services.
They don't really get into health or social services. That's other ministries, and that's why our office has been calling on a cross-ministerial plan.
How do we stop the gap so that seniors aren't slipping through the cracks and falling into homelessness or having to go into long-term care when they don't need to?
Due to the funding constraints, the outreach program is running in fewer neighborhoods. Konkin believes greater investment in services like this will save the province money and provide dignity for seniors.
This program costs around $1,000 per senior per year. That's under $3 per person per day. When we look at hospitalization, we're looking at over $1,600 per day. Assisted living and long-term care, we're looking at $400 to $600 per person per day.
The latest Greater Vancouver homeless count shows nearly 1 in 4 unhoused British Columbians is a senior, and nearly half of those seniors experienced homelessness for the first time after turning 55. For Van Dyke, the program has been a lifeline. Holway House hopes funding is restored so they can expand the program across BC. Leanne Yu, CBC News, Vancouver.
Still ahead, BC's tourism sector is gearing up for a busy summer as Canadians explore their own backyard. Details after the break. Stay with us. Today marks the start of the tariffs Donald Trump announced Wednesday, the widest ranging of his trade war. It comes as thousands around the world poured into the streets in protest of the Trump administration. The outrage spanned budget cuts, human rights, and foreign policy. CBC's Ithel Musa reports.
here we all are exercising our First Right Amendment.
This demonstration is just one of more than 1,000 taking place Saturday in the United States, Europe, and Canada, with a message for President Donald Trump and his billionaire advisor Elon Musk. Hands off health care, hands off jobs, and hands off federal services.
I'm really concerned about the impact on education. They're withholding funding from universities and from public schools all across the country.
He's taking money from Social Security, from Medicare. People are going to be hungry, they're going to be sick and not be able to get medical.
Demonstrators are also denouncing the deportation of immigrants and the scaling back of protections for transgender people.
Freedom is at stake in the United States and for the whole world with what Donald Trump is doing. And we need to stand up. We need to raise our voices. We need to be heard.
The slow swell of international protests against Trump and Musk can be explained this way, says this expert.
The offensive he's taken at the democratic norms, the human rights norms that we've come to expect in Western countries, his anti-migrant steps, supporting dictatorships. This goes against everything we know about the United States and its leadership in the Western world.
The White House says Trump will always protect programs like Social Security and Medicare for eligible Americans, unlike Democrats, which it claims without proof would give these benefits to illegal migrants. Idil Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
As tensions continue to mount between Canada and the United States, bookings at BC campgrounds are filling up quickly as more Canadians make summer vacation plans at home. And in the East Kootenay, golf reservations are also seeing an uptick. Corey Bullock reports.
The executive director for Cranbrook Tourism says it will be a busy summer ahead as Canadians decide to spend their travel dollars locally. She says there will likely be more American and international visitors, too.
Canadians' intent to travel to the U.S. is in steep decline, whereas Americans' intent to travel to us is actually up.
Jan says nearby campgrounds are already full and golf courses are seeing a 26% increase in bookings. She expects local tourist destinations like Fort Steele, the History Center, and St. Eugene to be busier than usual. A silver lining, she says, in what is a very stressful time for many other industries.
Tourism is a major industry and employs a lot of people here, right? So we want people to feel welcome no matter where they're coming from.
Others agree.
I think it's incumbent on us as Canadians to be welcoming and warming. American cousins, brothers, sisters, welcome.
But plans to travel south of the border?
Are you planning to travel to the U.S. anytime soon?
Not ever again. We decided, we'll just take a trip to Mexico instead. Just too much uncertainty.
Residents like Shannon Fisher, who owns a local farm and garden center, say now is the time to also support local businesses.
We need to support our Canadian farmers, our Canadian growers, our Canadian business people.
Something she's making every effort to do in her store.
2 months ago when this sort of started, we actually canceled about $40,000 worth of product that was supposed to come up from the USA, and out of principle, we just said, sorry, we can't do it.
She pointed to the Creston Valley and Okanagan, where farmers are still reeling from the loss of fruit and wine crops last year, saying they'll be relying on tourism now more than ever. Corey Bullock, CBC News, Cranbrook.
Here we have a live shot of White Rock Pier tonight. When we return, the harrowing story of a little dog who was found dumped in a garbage bin. More on his recovery after the break. The discovery of an injured dog dumped in a garbage can in a popular Vancouver park has sent shockwaves through the city's close-knit canine community. As Michelle Gomez reports, it's unclear how the toy poodle wound up there.
Oh my God, are you okay?
To find a dog in that state was heartbreaking.
Terry Sparrow and his fiancée Krista Brisk were walking on the Camosun Trail in Pacific Spirit Park Wednesday evening. Sparrow was throwing some gum in a garbage bin when a tuft of fur made him do a double take.
It kind of looked up at us and didn't make any noise whatsoever.
He says the dog, who they've been calling Oscar, was in terrible shape and could not walk.
Anger, disgust, it was just horrifying to see a dog left like that. I don't know how anybody could do that.
The couple fed and bathed him and brought him to the vet the next morning. The Dunbar Animal Hospital says in a statement the team was shocked and saddened by Oscar's condition, adding he showed signs of significant trauma, including multiple broken ribs, a dislocated hip, and a spinal injury. After posting about Oscar online, Terry says he received an outpouring of support overnight, and a family friend who volunteers for a dog rescue organization took him in.
But I've never come across something like this in 20 years.
Schultz says already Oscar is doing better, looking more alert, drinking water, and even standing up on his own.
I am hopeful. You can see he's got a lot of life in him. He's just been dealt a terrible hand. Dogs are so resilient, and I can't believe he's bouncing back, trusting me.
She says Oscar has a treatment plan and will eventually need surgery on his hip.
We got to be their voice. They have no voice, so in cases like this, it's up to us to help out.
The RCMP confirm it is aware of the incident and is investigating, and are asking anyone with information to come forward. Michelle Gomez, CBC News, Vancouver.
That is your late news for this Saturday. Thanks so much for watching. Before we leave you, let's take a look at the results from Vancouver's by-election. They are starting to trickle in. The city hopes to have the full results later tonight. To keep up to date with all the latest news, visit our website at cbc.ca/BC. We'll see you tomorrow.